Hello, and welcome to my very odd March wrap-up. I've not really been feeling inspired to film recently, and all I really want to do is play Animal Crossing and Stardew Valley. But there are some books that I read in the beginning of the month that I still want to give reviews for, if only so I don't forget what I thought about them completely, because it's been a few weeks and I'm already forgetting pretty much everything I've read. So before it disappears completely from my mind, I want to get it down in recording, I guess. So I hope you don't mind this podcast voiceover wrap up as I do a Let's Play of Animal Crossing, because that's all I've been doing recently. So the first book I finished in March was actually a book that I started last year in December, and that was The Great Hunt by Robert Jordan. This is book 2 in the Wheel of Time series, and I liked it so much better than the first book. The first book I read last year, and I was not really that impressed by it. I thought it was pretty much a copy of Lord of the Rings, but not done quite as well. And this book definitely starts to get into a different territory from Lord of the Rings, and I enjoyed it so much better. You get to learn a lot more about the magic when you're following the girls going to the White Tower, and that was my favorite part. I was very interested in following what the girls were doing as they were getting their sort of magic training to be Aes Sedai. The boys are fine. I still don't really care much about them, but it's a classic fantasy, boys going on an adventure to save the world, so it's fine. It's a staple of the genre and I can appreciate it, but I was really more interested in the magic with the girls. The plot is much faster. There's a lot more happening. The world is expanding, so you're getting to see a bunch of different people, and a lot of the names, actually, I couldn't really keep track of. I was listening to this on audiobook, so I didn't really have the name physically in front of me. So I was getting characters confused because there's a bunch of side characters that come in from different parts of the world, which I was able to make sense of in the end, but it was just like a little bit confusing as I was listening to it. But I found that I was really wanting to pick this book up and wanting to read it and not wanting to stop listening to it, which is not something I would have imagined based on my experience with the first book, where it took me actual months to finish. Then again, this did take me months to finish, but that was also because I have it checked out from the library and I had to return it at the midpoint in like January or something. So it was only in late February that I got it again, and I was able to finish it at the beginning of March. It's not a perfect book. There were some things that were very convenient for the plot, especially with like basically every single thing that Rand does. It's so convenient, but I mean, the wheel weaves as the wheel wills, or whatever. So I can get over that. I'm definitely excited now to continue in the series now that I'm more invested in the characters and more invested in the story. So that's really fun for me, considering I was basically reading it because it's a staple of the fantasy genre, and I just wanted to have a broader knowledge of the basis of modern fantasy. So I definitely enjoyed book 2, and hopefully that trend will continue for the next 12 books in this series. Next, I read another nonfiction because my beginning of the year has been just filled with nonfiction books. Now, most of the fiction books that I've been picking up, I've really been enjoying, which is something new to me because I don't really read nonfiction. I don't think I've read a single one in the last 3 years or so, at least. But I really liked some of the ones I was picking up in the beginning of the year. However, in March, it starts to go downhill. The first nonfiction that I didn't have so much luck with was Awakening Your Ikigai: How the Japanese Wake Up to Joy and Purpose Every Day by Ken Mogi. My main problem with this is I still can't really tell you what Ikigai is. It didn't really explain the concept at all. And I would assume it's just being able to find joy in small things because that's what I was able to take from it. But again, it wasn't really clear what Ikigai was. The book ended up being a compilation of little cultural tidbits about how, I guess, people in Japan experience Ikigai. But again, I couldn't really tell you because I don't know how to identify Ikigai. It doesn't really work as a how-to book, and there wasn't really much concrete information in it, but it did still provide some really interesting insights into Japanese culture that were new to me and I really appreciated learning about. But I don't think it really does a good job of being a book about Ikigai and finding your Ikigai because I couldn't tell you how to do it at all. I was thinking that in a way, the setup of the book is supposed to encourage Ikigai because I think it's all about like taking things slowly and at your own pace and sort of like meandering and exploring. I don't know, maybe I'm just trying to come up with excuses for a meandering and very slowly moving, not very informational book. But it's a possibility, I don't know. I'm still really interested in this concept. I want to figure out what the heck Ikigai is, but this is not a book that I would recommend you go to for that information because I didn't get that information from it. If you're looking for just like a small insight into various cultural things about Japan, it would be a good option, but if you're going into it expecting to learn about Ikigai, I would steer you clear of it. Next, I read The Tomes of Atuan by Ursula K. Le Guin, and this is the second book in the Earthsea cycle, which is a YA fantasy, but it's completely different tonally from current modern-day YA fantasy. I explained the first book as sounding like a fairy tale, and I think what I was trying to get at was it sounds more like you're being told a story rather than living through someone's perspective as they experience everything that's happening in the plot. So a lot of modern YA fantasy is told like first person and in a very modern voice, but this is told in third person and kind of in a detached and sort of lyrical way. So it makes for a completely different reading experience, really. Though this is the second book in a series, it's only sort of adjacent to the first book, I feel, because it follows a new main character. It's about a little girl who is the reincarnation of the first priestess of some really old gods, and her life as she is being brought up in this temple where she is the sole worshiper for these gods. There were some parts that were related to the first book that I read in 2017, so I've pretty much forgotten a lot of it, but with the way that it's told, a lot of those plot points that were necessary for this story came back to me really easily. So I didn't really find that I had a problem with following the next in the series after such a long time in between the first and second books. And this was just a really entertaining and cozy read. It was very comfortable for me, which is kind of weird because it's all pretty much told down in these caves where everything is dark and scary and you can't see anything. But I still found myself comforted by it, and I think that's partially because of the writing style, where it just feels like something that you would be told as a bedtime story. So I really enjoyed it, and I'm glad that I've decided to continue in this series. I think there are 6 books technically in the Earthsea cycle, and my goal for 2020 is to continue in the series that I have already started. So far in the year, I'm doing pretty good. I have 2 of those series that I had on my 20 and 2020 list that I read in March. So it's shaping up good so far, even though now I'm not really in a reading mood, so we'll see how the rest of this goes. I picked up 2 more nonfiction books, one of them being Sunken Gardens, a step-by-step guide to planting freshwater aquariums by Karen A. Randall. I know no one has any interest in this book whatsoever. It's just me because I am an aquarium nerd and I have my aquarium that I really want to make look as pretty as possible. But I will say, as someone with an aquarium, this is a pretty good step-by-step guide. It covers a lot of the basics really well, while also giving some ideas for aquascaping if that's something you want to get into and you're first starting your aquarium. I did find that there was a lot of the author's opinion being injected into like what looks nice as an aquascape, which was a little weird because different people are going to like how different aquariums look, and it just felt kind of odd, but it's nothing I couldn't look past. Plus there was a bunch of pictures of the really beautiful aquariums that gave me the inspiration that I was looking for and the reason that I picked this up. So this is a good book if you're looking for a condensed version of all of the various information you can find on the internet. But again, you could find all of this information on the internet if you're searching properly. If you're interested in starting a planted tank though, this would be a good option to start. And then another nonfiction book that I had more problems with was How to Give Up Plastic by McCallum. And as the title suggests, this is basically a guide to trying to live a plastic-free life. The first half of this book deals more with the business and governmental side of it and how we can try and convince government and businesses to use less plastic. And then the second half of the book is more how-to guidelines you can implement in your own house for using less plastic. While some of the information was useful, I was just getting really annoyed with the narrator again. In a lot of the cases, he's basically advocating for you to publicly shame institutions into getting rid of plastic. So for a couple examples, he says that if you've ordered something and it gets shipped to you in an excessive amount of plastic, you should ship your plastic trash back to the supplier and say that you don't appreciate how much plastic was used in this shipping. Or if some product you buy from a department store has too much plastic packaging, you should take a picture and post it on social media, tag the company, and complain about how much plastic there is. Or if you're at a restaurant and they give you plastic utensils, you should complain to the manager that you don't want to encourage using all of this plastic. And it's like so many of these things are really obnoxious, and I really don't agree with it. I don't think you should just be going and trying to publicly shame people into not using plastic. I don't think that's a good way to go about it. Because yes, it's important that we start to cut down on our plastic because we don't know what the heck we're going to do with all the plastic waste in the world. But attacking people and attacking corporations is not a good message. You could say, oh yeah, it's a corporation, they have plenty of money and it's not really harming any one person. But then you start to say that it's okay to publicly shame corporations, which wouldn't really be a big step into saying, oh, you can publicly shame celebrities or you could publicly shame YouTubers or anything. I don't think it's a good message to be sending to people that they should, instead of trying to reason with people and give them suggestions for how they can reduce their plastic, you should just go out on social media and just say, this is bad, this corporation's bad, we should just trash them all. So that was my opinion of this book. I don't really remember any of the helpful tips it gave, even though I'm sure there were some, because at this point I'm just so focused on how much I just got really annoyed with this narrator. So then I decided to pick up 2 different mangas with basically the same premise that I have been wanting to read for a very long time, and that's Shortcake and Living Room Matsunaga-san. So I read the first 5 volumes of each of these. Shortcake by Morishita is about a girl who has a really long commute to school by bus, and she decides to move into a co-ed boarding house so that she can be closer to school and not have to commute for 2 hours. And of course, there's romance. There's a love triangle in this that I don't know how I feel about yet. The art in this is really cute and I really appreciate it, but I did find that I was having trouble keeping up with the plot sometimes. It seemed like the panels were at weird time skips or things weren't being communicated properly, so I didn't really understand how the story was flowing. The characters are really cute and I really like the interaction between the 2 boys. I think they're adorable and they're adorable together. But other than that, I wasn't actually too impressed by this series. I think it's really nice to look at and it's just mindless fun, but I'm not really finding anything in the storyline itself that is very drawing for me. There's also another random character that I don't really know how he fits in with everything, and it feels like there's supposed to be a plot, but it's not really going anywhere, so I'm still planning to continue the series. I really like the art and I just love a co-ed boarding house situation, but otherwise it's not something that I am super fond of as of yet. I did, however, like Living Room Matsunaga-san a little bit more. This is by Keiko Iwashita, and this is about a high school girl who moves into a co-ed boarding house with a bunch of adults. And there's a romance, of course, but this time it's an age gap romance with a graphic designer. I don't know what it is, but I really enjoyed this one more. The art is still very cute. It's not quite as bubbly and cute as Shortcake, but I still really enjoyed it. But the thing with this series is it has much more of a plotline than Shortcake does, in my opinion. I think I like the interaction between the main lead more than I like any of the interactions in Shortcake. Also, it's not a love triangle, so there's just one love interest, which is so nice because I don't really like love triangles that much. And there were a lot of just really cute butterfly moments in Living Room Matsunaga-san that I just really enjoyed. So I think that's the main reason I liked that one better than Shortcake. But I'm still obviously planning to continue both of these series. I know there are some volumes in both of these series that I haven't read yet that are already out. So I will be getting my hands on them as soon as my library reopens. And that is everything that I've read in March. I haven't really been in a reading mood. I've just been wanting to play video games. I am currently reading 3 books, 2 of which are super long and super dense. Those being Fortress in the Eye of Time by CJ Cherryh and Dune by Frank Herbert. Both of these are on the older side, so the writing is really dense, and so I'm working through them much slower than I normally would, especially because I haven't really been feeling like picking them up in the first place. And then I also started another nonfiction book, which was How to Be Yourself by Hendriksen, but I decided to put that on hold and just pause it for a minute because I have not really been feeling in the mood to read nonfiction at this time. I read maybe 20% of it, and I was really enjoying it, and I think I could find a lot of really useful information from it, and I plan to come back to it, but just right now is not a good time for me to be reading nonfiction. So we'll see. My reading and my filming are kind of up in the air at the moment, but I hope you enjoyed this little Let's Play of Animal Crossing while I go over everything that I read in March. Let me know what you thought of this style. It's completely different from anything I've done before, and I'm really curious how you guys are going to react. But that's it for now, and I will see you later. Bye.